So I thought maybe it's time that you learned this step with me, and that is note taking. So note taking is useful and helpful in all the skills in IELTS, including reading, listening, writing, and speaking. In reading, you have some texts and you have some questions and you need to answer the questions. One thing in reading is that it doesn't really matter if you understand the text or not if you don't get correct answers. When you read a text, you can take a few notes next to it with bullet points only, and it gives you the brief idea of what the text is about. Taking notes also familiarizes your brain with all the information of the text, and eventually you will have a very brief idea of where you can find the information whenever you need it. So it helps you abundantly in finding the answers because you already know the whereabouts of the information you need. And you just need to look at that area to read again one more time so that you can identify the answers quickly. As you know, in IELTS, especially in IELTS academic, you need to read a lot of text about science. And just like you, I am not an expert in sciences. And actually, I am scared of sciences because the majority of time, as much as I hate to admit it, I did not understand. So the thing is, the words were very common, either no new words or words that I could understand based on the context. I knew a lot of grammar and I understood the structure of the writing of the whole text, but I could not find the answers. That's the problem. So as a result, my score was very low. I was practicing for such a long time and I did not see any improvement until the point that I really thought that maybe I just should give up, just like a lot of you may be thinking right now. So please don't. So one day I just realized that maybe I should approach the reading exam in a different way. I started with reading very, very quickly and scanning and skimming, things like that. But then I realized maybe it's not the way it should be. It did not work for me, skimming and scanning. That is why I stopped skimming and scanning. I started to take notes. It just came out instinctively. I did not plan for it. I did not read anywhere that note taking would help me in IELTS. To that point, I had never heard anybody talk about taking notes in IELTS. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe I was just exploring something new. Maybe it would work or maybe it would not. But I wouldn't have known if I hadn't tried, right? So that's why I started taking notes. I started very slowly because at that time, my reading comprehension skills were very low. I could not understand the meaning of the sentence, even though there were no words that I didn't know. So when I took notes, I realized that it helped me abundantly. I got to know the main idea of the paragraph. I got to know the main idea of the text. And in turn, I could easily find the answer because I already knew where I should look at to find the information. And there's one thing that I realized, that taking notes helped me save a lot of time. I mean, surprise, right? It was a surprise to me because I was thinking, okay, I was spending a lot of time on taking notes and I did not have enough time for answering your questions, but I was wrong. So after I had taken some notes, I realized that I could identify the questions, I could identify the area where I could find the information more easily. That is why I didn't have to read everything. I didn't have to skim, I didn't have to scan whatsoever because I knew exactly where I should look for the information. And then I just highlighted the information and I got the answer. Whether it was a fill in the gap question or it was an MCQ, I didn't find it difficult at all because I knew where I should read to find the information. And that's when I came up with the idea that I would never read the text a second time, the whole text a second time, because whenever I read something, I take notes next to it. I compare the meaning of the paragraph and the meaning of the questions. And I knew, okay, this is not where the information should be. I don't have to spend so much time on this paragraph anymore. With listening, taking notes works like magic. So unlike reading, in listening, you don't have any text to refer to. You don't have any proof for your answers, right? You just get to listen to the recording once, and then you have to answer the questions along the way. At the end of the test, you might have some time to check your work, but basically, if the recording is not going on, you wouldn't know if your answers are correct. But with taking notes, you know, because you have the text to refer to. Let's say that you are listening to a recording and you take a little note next to it. after every part, you would have a little time to check your work. That is when you can compare your answer and the notes that you took. And voila, you got some text to refer to and you got some proof for your answers. The thing is, you don't have to answer the questions along the way. You can just spend some time to take notes, and then after each part, you have time to refer to your answer, to check your answer. So you go back to the notes that you take, then you can answer the questions. You have enough time to answer the questions. In terms of writing, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this step. So there are two things that I found taking notes helped me in writing. The first thing is that I do not miss any details. So when I take notes, I answer all the questions. I cover all the points that are needed in my writing. And when I write, I just follow the points. I do not have to change. I do not have to add more points. I do not have to worry if I have missed any points because I have actually spent time thinking about the points I have to cover. Now, the second thing that also helped me by taking notes is that I can save time. Save time as in when I write, I don't have to think anymore because I already thought about it. I already have a brief idea of what I need to write. Now, what I need to focus is to make sure whatever I write is grammatically correct and natural. And I only need to think about the words that I'm putting in the sentences. And in fact, when I make an outline, I also make a list of words that I want to include in my writing based on the topics. That is why I can save a lot of time on thinking. The story is a little bit different when it comes to speaking because in speaking, you do not have time to think. You do not have time to take notes or write something, especially in part 1 and part 3. In part 2, you get some time to take notes. You get 1 minute to take notes and you get 2 minutes to speak. And in that 1 minute, you can do magic. So you can make sure that you cover all the points. You can make sure that whatever is being asked from the cue card is covered in your speaking by giving some bullet points, by making notes. So when you speak, you can also refer to your notes. You can also look at the notes and make sure that, okay, whatever I have written is covered here. So the thing about taking notes and speaking is that it keeps you on track. It keeps a logical order of your story, of whatever you're talking about. And you don't have to worry about not covering all the points, not covering all the requirements that are given in the cue card. Remember, the better your notes are, the more well organized your answer would be.